In January 2026, Anthropic published this: Demystifying Evals for AI Agents. They organized evaluation targets into three categories. Outcome: did the task complete? Tool calls: did the agent call the right tools? Transcript: analyzing the entire interaction. A month later, OpenAI pointed in the same direction. On February 23rd, the OpenAI cookbook added, Building Governed AI Agents. The message is clear. Embed evals and guardrails into your agent operations. AI agents with skills, procedural instructions, are spreading fast. Claude Code, Codex, Cursor, Gemini CLI. More than 30 tools now support the same specification. Here's the problem. You make a small change to a skill, and yesterday's quality vanishes. The output looked fine. The behavior was broken. Anthropic puts it this way. The capabilities that make agents useful also make them harder to evaluate. That tension is the core of everything that follows. Here's the first issue. Teams can't distinguish real regressions from noise, automatically test changes against hundreds of scenarios before shipping, or measure improvements. In short, there's no mechanism to detect regressions. In normal software development, you change code, you run tests. If something breaks, you know immediately. But with skills, traditional tests don't really exist. Every time you modify a skill, there's no reliable way to confirm that past quality is preserved. And what happens without evals? This is where things start to break down. Without them, it's easy to get stuck in reactive loops, catching issues only in production, where fixing one failure creates others. You're always reacting, never preventing. Problem 2. Agent mistakes compound. Agents use tools across many turns, modifying state in the environment and adapting as they go, which means mistakes can propagate and compound. Unlike a simple chatbot, agents act. They create files. They execute commands. They call APIs. One wrong step in turn 2 affects everything that follows. The output text can look correct, while the behavior is completely wrong. Behavioral failures are invisible when you're only looking at text. Reading through what Anthropic and OpenAI published, the answer becomes clear. Quality maintenance requires 2 layers. But here's the important part. These layers aren't optional add-ons. They're built into the system from day one. If you remove either layer, the whole reliability story falls apart. Here's the first one. Layer 1. Evaluations run on every change. OpenAI calls this eval-driven system design. Eval-driven system design for reliability and scalability. In other words, evaluation isn't something you do at the end. It's how you build. Not a one-time evaluation. Evaluations that run every time you modify a skill. Every prompt tweak. Every tool adjustment. Every policy update. Use results from both normal and adversarial runs to tune policy and harden defenses. That line matters. They're not just testing happy paths, they're testing failure paths, attack paths, edge cases. Change a skill, tests run. Open a PR, evals run. Nothing merges without measurement. The cookbook describes this as a feedback loop. Guardrail eval and the feedback loop use results to tune policy and harden defenses. So the system improves because it's constantly being challenged. Evaluation isn't a gate you pass once, it's a continuous cycle. And that changes how you think about reliability. And here's a key principle. The pipeline treats red team inputs the same way as user queries. They flow through pre-flight, input guardrails, orchestration, and output guardrails. This is subtle but critical. There is no special testing mode that bypasses the real system. Test inputs follow the exact same path as real inputs. No shortcuts. If an exploit works in testing, it would have worked in production. That's the point. Layer 2. Evaluate behavior, not text. Because here's the trap most teams fall into. They evaluate what the model says. But agents don't just talk, they act. This is where Anthropic's framework comes in. They organized evaluation into 3 axes: outcome, tool calls, transcript. 3 different lenses on behavior. Let's start with the first one, outcome verification. The final state in the environment at the end of the trial. Not what the agent said it did. What actually changed? Did the reservation exist in the database? Was the file actually created? Did the email actually send? If the world didn't change correctly, the task failed. Simple as that. But outcome isn't the whole story. Tool calls verification. Check which tools used and their parameters to ensure the agent selected appropriate actions. Did it call the right tool? With the right parameters? Did it call unnecessary tools? Did it skip required ones? This catches subtle reasoning failures that text evaluation would miss. And finally, transcript analysis, measuring turns taken and token usage to understand the agent's efficiency. Was the approach reasonable? Did it waste steps? Did it loop? Did it overthink? 2 agents can reach the same outcome, but one may be dramatically more efficient. And at scale, efficiency is cost, and latency, and user experience. Anthropic also explains how to grade these, because measuring is one thing, scoring is another. 3 types of graders: code-based graders, objective, reproducible checks, fast and cheap, perfect for outcome verification and structured tasks; model-based graders, rubric-based scoring for subjective tasks, useful when you need qualitative judgment; human graders, calibration and gold standard verification, slow, but essential for aligning everything else. And scoring can be weighted, combined grader scores must hit a threshold; binary, all graders must pass; or a hybrid. So you can decide, does everything need to pass? Or can strengths compensate for weaknesses? That depends on your risk tolerance. So that's the 2-layer approach. Layer 1, evals embedded in your development loop. Layer 2, measure behavior, outcome, tool calls, transcript, not just text. And when you combine both, you don't just build an agent, you build a system that can improve itself without quietly breaking. Now let me show you the evidence. In February 2026, a paper called SkillsBench was published. 86 tasks, 11 domains, over 7,300 trials. Here's what they found. Human-curated skills improve success rates by an average of 16.2 percentage points. But here's the twist. Skills that AI generated for itself? No effect. Actually, negative 1.3 points. Slightly worse. This means skills need to be designed by humans and quality maintained through evaluations. SkillsBench also revealed the optimal design pattern. Skills focused on 2 to 3 modules, plus 18.6 points. Comprehensive, exhaustive documentation, minus 2.9 points. Actually counterproductive. Longer isn't better. Less, more focused is the answer. Here's something interesting. Domain matters. Healthcare, plus 51.9 points. Manufacturing, plus 41.9 points. Software engineering, only plus 4.5 points. Why the difference? Software engineering is already heavily represented in pre-training data. The model already knows a lot. Specialized domains benefit most from skills. Let me wrap this up. Quality maintenance for skills isn't about improvement. It's about operations. If evaluations run on every change and they measure behavior, you can recover the same day something breaks. Without evaluations, you don't even know something broke. By the time you notice, you can't trace back to when it happened. Anthropic and OpenAI both pointed in the same direction at nearly the same time. Embed evals into your operations. Measure behavior. This is the foundation of agent operations in 2026. The 2 documents I covered today, Anthropic's Demystifying Evals for AI Agents and OpenAI's Building Governed AI Agents, are linked in the description. SkillsBench is still a preprint, but if you're designing skills, it's worth reading. The data on focused versus comprehensive documentation alone could save you a lot of trial and error. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.